Hi everyone, my name is Dave, and welcome to Extra Credit, a video series where we take an unscripted look at topics related to local history and exploring that history. Okay, so before we get into the episode as we normally do, just a quick reminder to first of all visit my website. You're going to find a link in the description. There you're going to find all kinds of information related to the topics that we talk about on this video series. Additionally, you're going to find a section for extra credit on the website, so you can go back and revisit past episodes if you haven't seen them in a while, or if you're new, you can take a look at things that we've discussed in the past. Additionally, you can find me on social media, so you're going to be able to find me on Facebook. You're going to find me on Twitter, X, as well as Instagram. And finally, if you haven't already done so, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. There's content that drops regularly on the channel, particularly in the months that we do hikes in the spring and the fall. And so by subscribing and turning on the notifications, you're going to get that material much quicker than if you're waiting for it to come out on social media. Okay, so got Luna here coming for a visit. She needs a little attention. So what we've done in past episodes is we've spent a lot of time talking about my hikes, my explorations. We've taken a look at some of the gear and some of the stuff that I use when I do these explorations. So we've talked about, tactical vests, and we've talked about winter gear, and we've looked at bikes, and we've looked at the bike trailers. One of the things that we really haven't talked about is actually getting out to the hike. So I thought, well, maybe we should do an episode on actually getting from where we are to our hike locations, because that's really a big part of what happens. I actually mention on lots of times when I'm doing the hikes that I spend more time driving oftentimes than I actually spend on the hikes. So particularly as you go further, in my case, when I'm doing my Kinghorn hikes, if I'm going further to the east, if I'm going to a place like Jellicoe or I'm going to Geraldton, Geraldton is a 2.5-hour drive from here at camp, let alone from home, right? So camp is about 50 minutes from home. And then I'm tacking another 2.5 hours on top of that, right? And that's one way. So you've basically got about 5 hours of driving for example, last spring, we did a hike at Geraldton, and we're just basically doing the chunk right around the community. And so, wants pets here. You're doing a hike that's maybe an hour long. So I'm driving 5 hours to do a 1-hour hike, right? So those are some of the challenges that we're facing. And again, there are shorter ones, right? So, if I'm doing something at Pass Lake or I'm doing something at Pearl, right? Pass Lake is, 10 minutes from here. Pearl is even shorter. Pearl's 5 minutes from here. So, again, you're going to get these variations in the distances. So, obviously there's a challenge actually getting out to these places. And this episode is not going to be about me sort of telling you what you should do. It's me just giving you an idea of what I use. And then you can sort of, use that as you will. Obviously there's going to be a lot of different preferences and things like that, that people are going to use. In many cases, the hikes that I'm doing, there's nothing crazy about where I'm going. One of the nice things about the Kinghorn, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to explore this rail line as opposed to things like, the Grand Trunk Pacific, was that it was way more accessible. There was most of the places, with just a very few exceptions. I'm trying to think of, places like just east of Geraldton, around Conemaugh Lake, where we actually had to boat in. There's another spot on the west side of Geraldton, between Geraldton and Jellicoe, around Turkey Lake, where it's a little bit trickier to get in because, it's kind of in a little bit more of a inaccessible area. But for the most part, there's access roads. There's nothing overly challenging about the access roads to get into. Luna just wants all kinds of attention here, and she's a little on the sneaky side. She needs a bath. And so it's not like you need, some sort of crazy off-road vehicle. Again, there are some considerations that you need to keep in mind, and certainly I will, talk about some of those and discuss some of those as we're going through this. So again, I mean, your ability to get out to these places to do the hikes is going to depend on what you have available to you. For many years when I first started doing hikes and explorations, I was basically just using what vehicle that I had, and in many cases they were hand-me-downs from my parents. I dealt with not necessarily mechanical issues, but I know I dealt with, in some cases, things like flat tires and stuff like that, because, the tires were kind of a little bit older, or, you're buying kind of replacement tires and, they're used or whatever like that. And, they're not ideally suited for some of the things that I was doing. Right. So, again, I mean, I made do for many years, with what I had available, to me. Like I said, in a lot of cases, in this particular rail line and some of the other things that I do, whatever vehicle you have sometimes is what you're going to have to use. Now, for the last 24 years, I've been fortunate enough to have a good selection of vehicles at my disposal. So back in 1999, I purchased my first truck. I had just been hired full-time as a teacher, and I was in a position to buy a new vehicle. And as I'm talking here, I'm going to flash some stuff up. So again, just like the vehicles, some of the things I'm going to mention about equipment, brands, things like that, it's going to come down to personal tastes or personal preferences. Okay. I've always been a GM guy. My family's always driven GM vehicles. I've never really had, so far, fingers crossed, any real issues with them. So the first truck that I purchased back in 1999 was a GMC Sierra. It was right at that time when they were coming out with the doored extended cab model. So prior to that, they did have the extended cabs, but basically they were, there was no door access, right? You had to kind of push the front seats forward, and they were kind of a little bit cramped and small and things like that. And so all of a sudden they started, building these, these vehicles with the doors, with the back doors in them. So mine was one of the earliest models with that GM had put out. And so it had a third door. So on the driver's side, there was no door. And then on the passenger side, there was kind of the, it wasn't a regular opening door. It kind of opened outwards, right? You had to open the passenger side door, and then you had to open the other door. But it did allow you access to the back, and there was quite a bit more room. And so I used that truck for quite a number of years. I used it for 12 years until 2011, when I decided to replace it. And so I bought a 2011 model GMC Sierra. It was an upgraded model, so it was a higher trim package. It was an extended cab, and so basically, a crew cab. So it basically had 4 full-size door. There was much more room in the back. The only unfortunate part, it was a short box, so I did lose some room in the box. Okay, and so the previous truck was a 6'6" box, and this was only a 5'5" box. So I lost about a foot of room in the box, and that, that did create a few little issues here and there. Again, the trim model was higher, so the first truck that I bought was kind of a base model, right? I mean, what I could afford at the time, and so this was an upgrade when it kind of came to the trim package. It was an SLT, right? So it was near the top of the line in terms of some of the features and things like that. Now, I did keep the old truck, and so what I did for the first bunch of years was I kept the new truck basically for, just the normal stuff. And I used the old truck when I did hikes and explorations and things like that. And I remember there was one occasion, I'll have to try to find the picture and put the picture up. I actually was coming back from Gunflint, from the Canadian side of Gunflint, and I got a flat. I remember I just mangled the tire it was pretty much a mess, right? Like, and I remember I had to go and try to find some replacement tires for it, right? I just sort of shredded the tire. I think I got a hole in it and I just didn't realize, and I was driving on it and it just got completely mangled. And so I used after that. Eventually, I sold the old truck and I started using the newer one to do the hikes. And I used that truck up until this past summer. So this past summer, I actually bought a new truck, and part of the reason was my older son was going off to university, needed a vehicle, so we decided to basically sell the old one to him, and then I was going to buy a new one. So I do have a new vehicle now, which is a 2023 model GMC Sierra, and a few little changes. It's not as high of a model. It's an elevation model. Vehicles have become very expensive now, if you haven't noticed, but it is a crew cab as well, and the crew cab is a little bit bigger, so there's a little bit more room in the back. It is a full-size box, so it is a 6'6" box, so there's a little bit more room in the back. Fuel economy is much better, so I'm finding that I'm getting a little bit more bang for my buck when it comes to money. When it comes to gas. Yeah, so hopefully that is going to last me through a bunch more years. And so that's a little bit about the vehicles that I use. Again, I haven't really done anything too crazy with the new truck. I'm trying to keep it as best shape as I can. Now there is a few places where you're going to go through and there's branches and stuff, and I'm trying to avoid getting scratches and things like that for as long as I can. So anyway, so that's what I'm using for a vehicle. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other things that I recommend. All right, so just like with a lot of other things, the vehicle brands and things like that, I mean, everybody has sort of their opinions on what are ideal things for when you're going into the outdoors. Again, I'm not doing anything crazy. I know oftentimes when there's people who go hunting and fishing and they're going in, some back road areas, and they're going through a lot of conditions that are very difficult. I mean, generally I'm not typically doing a lot of that. Again, mostly for me, the truck is being able to haul some of my gear, the bikes, the bike trailer, anything else that I need for the hikes, and then basically having that little bit of ability to use things like 4x4 and have the ground clearance. Some of the roads are not necessarily the greatest, but I mean they're sort of manageable. So basically, the two big things that I have, two big recommendations that I have are, first of all, tires. Okay. Now, again, there are people that are like, you need to put a lift on your vehicle or you need to level it or things like that. I've never found the need to do that. Again, what I am doing and where I am going, I don't really need any additional ground clearance, and any of that type of stuff for me is going to negate things like fuel economy. And so I don't feel it necessary to do that. The one big thing that I'm very big on is tires. You need a good set of tires on your vehicle. Typically, when you purchase things like trucks, these days, a lot of the manufacturers will have them equipped with more passenger type, more on-road type tires. You will find that sometimes they will put all-terrain tires on them. So my new truck came with all-terrain tires. Unfortunately, they are P-Series tires. And so they are more designed for ride and comfort and not necessarily designed for more of an off-road environment. The tread and things like that is the same that you would find on other tires, but the problem is that the number of plies that you're going to find. So basically, you're going to be restricted in how much weight that you're going to be able to put on the vehicle, and then there's going to be some issues with puncture. And that's the type of stuff that you're going to run into when you're going off roads. So I've always been very big on putting proper light truck tires on the vehicle. So I know that my first truck that I had, back the 1999 one, when I had to change tires, I went to a light truck tire. I did that with the 2011. I do sound a little bit hypocritical here because one of the things that I was thinking about doing all these hikes now was what was I going to do when I bought this new truck, because there was going to be P-Series tires on it. And I kind of hummed and hawed about it, and I'm kind of kicking myself now because what I should have done was basically change the tires right off the hop, and instead of waiting. So I'm planning on doing that this coming spring, is replacing the tires. What I could have done is taken the tires right off the hop, sold them as basically brand new, and recovered a lot of money to put towards the new tires. But now I'm basically going to have some kilometers on the existing tires and not going to get as much money. And I mean, that's the only issue with going to a light truck tire, is the price continues to go up on them, and especially because of the size of the tires continues to go up. So my first truck had 16-inch tires, right? 16-inch rims. My second truck had 18-inch rims, and now the new truck has 20-inch rims. And so obviously the price of the tires increases with the rim size, and with what we've been dealing with as of late with inflation and things like that. So the prices of the tires continues to grow. So basically, I'm looking at to replace my tires with a light truck tire is probably going to be in around the $2,000 range, which is quite a bit of money. Hopefully I can get some value out of the existing tires when I sell them. Now, when it comes to brand, the actual style of the tire, again, it's going to depend on personal preference. I know some people are very big, I'm going in the outdoors, I want a super aggressive tread, right? And so they're going with like a dedicated off-road mud tire that has a very aggressive tread pattern. It has a big sort of tread blocks and lots of room in between to shed things like mud and stuff like that. I mean, again, I'm a bit more of the belief that I'm not driving as much off-road as I am on-road, and I'm looking for more of an all-terrain type tire. The one that I've used a lot is basically a Goodyear Wrangler. I used that on the first truck, and then I had 2 sets of that on the 2011 truck. The only unfortunate part now is that with this truck, there is no LT tire that is close in size to the rim that I have. And so I might actually have to look at some different brands of tires when it comes to replace this set. So I'm looking at either BF Goodrich or Cooper or potentially a Toyo. I don't know. I'm going to have to sort of decide when the time comes. But again, that's sort of my take on what you would need for tires. Like I said, a good light truck all-terrain tire is something that is going to fit the need for a lot of people who are, not consistently going off-road, who are doing more on-road driving like I am. Like I said, if you're driving for 5 hours, it's all highway driving, and there's just a little stretch that you're going to be going off-road. The big thing that I'm concerned about is oftentimes when I'm going somewhere near that grade, there's a lot of sharp rocks from the ballast. There's potentially things like spikes that you might drive over. So I'm always concerned a little bit about, puncturing my tires and making sure that I don't get a flat. Okay, so as I do, as many of you do, we often like to travel with companions, and we've done episodes about companions. And so I don't go very many places without Luna, who's now kind of chilling out on the floor. And when you have a vehicle, you need to make sure that you basically take care of them while they're driving, particularly after the hike, where they may come into your vehicle and they may be dirty and have mud or all kinds of things on them. And certainly you don't want to wreck your vehicle and your seats or wherever they're finding a spot to relax, right? So I drive a truck, so I don't really have like a hatch or a back part to put. Now she's back over here. I don't have a place to put her, so she's hanging out on the back seat of the truck. So for many, many years, what I did was I just used an old bed sheet or a blanket or something like that I would drape over the seat the seats and the back part of the seats as well, to basically try to keep the dirt off. Not necessarily the most ideal thing. So this year when I bought the new truck, I actually said, well, maybe it's time to actually buy a dedicated proper seat cover to try to make sure that, I protect the seats. I generally found that it wasn't like, it wasn't the fact that things were seeping through. It was just lots of dirt and sand and things like that. And it would eventually work its way through the blanket, or the blanket would get moved, and then it'd end up behind the seats and it would be hard to clean. So what I did was I actually went out and bought a dedicated seat cover, and I will post a link to it in the description so you can have a look at it. And I'm going to show you a picture as well. So basically, I just picked it up off Amazon, and so it's a waterproof seat cover. I got the XL size because I figured, maybe the large size was designed for a smaller vehicle. Got the XL size. It actually fits very well. I do have to modify there's a part that loops around the headrests of the vehicle, and mine have telescoping ones. So I think they were made for kind of more of a block style headrest. And so they're a little bit loose. And so the top part of the seat cover hangs a little bit down. So I'm going to have to get my mom to shorten the straps a little bit so they fit a little bit better on the seats. And they have elastics that kind of cover that hook into the sides of the seat. They have parts that you kind of tuck into the seat itself so they don't sort of pop loose. There's little covers where you can get access to the seat belts. So I found it's been great, again, at keeping sort of all the dirt and things like that contained. She's sitting here staring at me. And she still stinks. She needs a bath. Again, this is something that you should consider when you are going hiking with your fur babies. And just, again, peace of mind to keep everything clean. We've talked about on a few occasions where I've taken Luna and she's rolled in something really ripe. And then all of a sudden now you're bringing her into her vehicle and she's got literally crap on her, and you're trying to clean her up as much as you can, or you're trying to clean up your animal as much as you can. But you don't want them sitting or rolling around on your seats and things like that with that on them, right? If you have a cover, then that way you can just clean up the cover and you don't worry about damaging or soiling your good seats. Okay, so this isn't the end of things. So what I decided to do when I did this episode was I decided that maybe we should actually show you a little of this in practice instead of just sort of talking about it. So there is an episode 2. It's already been recorded. We recorded it back on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. So kind of the beginning of October. And what I wanted to show you is actually the process of getting out there and going to our hike site. And so what I did was I basically recorded myself at a couple of times while we were getting from here at camp to, and in this case, we were going up to just east of Jellicoe at Kinghorn Road. And so we recorded a couple of times, right at the beginning of the hike, right at the beginning of the drive, right in the middle of the drive, and then once we got to our destination. So that's going to be episode 2. So make sure you check out episode 2, and then you can kind of see the process that happens, the magic that happens when we're actually driving to our destination. And I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing an episode 3 as well, maybe doing another one, basically showing you again the process that we go through. I know that this coming year I'm probably going to have to drive all the way up to Long Lac, which is even farther than Geraldton, right? So you're in the 2 hours and 40 minute range, something like that, maybe a little bit longer, 2 hours and 45 minutes to get to Long Lac. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll make a 3rd episode and you can see kind of that. And the big thing is that it'll be done in the springtime. And so there will be a little bit more light as compared to the one that we did where there were portions that we were filming and it's just basically the black interior of the truck because you can't really see me very well because you're waiting for the sun to come up. In any case, anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the episode and some of the things that we talked about, and maybe you can use some of this information. Again, we're going to be back with that next episode where we're actually going to show us getting there, the actual process of getting there. But we do have a whole bunch of more episodes on tap, some of which have been partially recorded already. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be showcasing those again once every month for the foreseeable future. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and make sure you come back and visit for more episodes. And in the meantime, stay safe.